Welcome to the Change Revolution podcast with your host, Phil Cooke.
I want to talk about the risks of online counseling and mentoring. I mean, you may think that you don't get involved in this stuff, but it doesn't. You don't have to be a pastor or a doctor or a lawyer, a counselor, even a business executive to understand that from time to time you give people advice online. And what we've learned through some legal issues out there recently, the truth is whatever you put out there digitally never really goes away. Some courts have ruled recently that text messages can be admissible into court. One particular famous situation with an individual who had two cell phones. One he used to text his wife, and the other he used to text his mistress. And when the wife found out and took him to court, the judge ruled that the text messages to his mistress on his other phone were admissible. So the truth is, we don't own our communications in the digital world. A lot of email companies out there have said that even if we delete our accounts, our emails don't really go away. And as we know with Facebook and MySpace and other places, we lose control once we upload something there. So the point is, if you're giving counseling to people, or if you're mentoring a young executive, or you're a pastor or ministry leader and you're sharing insight and counseling people, be very careful. Because the truth is, I've always told people, in fact, I may have mentioned it on this blog, that when you hit send in an email, you've lost control of that message. You've totally lost control, and that person on the other end who you think is your friend now may not be your friend a year from now, and they have the message. So from a very basic level, I always tell people, don't criticize people, don't fire someone, don't do any emotionally heavy lifting in an email. I always, if somebody wants to talk to me about private things, I'll say pick up the phone and call, or come by the office and we'll chat about it. You just don't share private information in an email. It's the same way with counseling, because should they do something that's inappropriate because of your advice, you could be liable because it's there in written form in a digital email. Now, I'm not an attorney, so I always recommend you go get reputable attorneys and get legal advice on these things. But it's worth thinking about. If you're sharing your life, if you're mentoring, if you're training people, if you're counseling people online, be very sensitive, because it could mean the difference between successful mentoring, successful counseling, and ending up in jail. Because in the digital age, we're still the Wild West, and we don't totally understand the rules and the boundaries and what's acceptable and not acceptable. So be very careful. Don't stop doing it necessarily, but be sensitive, get an attorney's advice, and proceed with caution.
Join us for more of this conversation at Phil's Change Revolution blog at philcooke.com. That's philcooke.com. And keep checking this podcast for more up-to-date dispatches from the front lines of media, faith, and culture.